Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Izuku becomes the cybernetically augmented hero, Deku x Mina, part 1. So before we start, go check out the author of this fanfic, Delusional777, link is in the description. Also subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's begin the video. You should probably just give it up. The All Might action figure fell from grace, onto the floor. Izuku Midoriya gasped, but quickly composed herself for the sake of her son, wishing to scramble whatever was left of the crumbling situation. Was the doctor implying that her little hero simply did not have a quirk? No need to jump to such assumptions over an admittedly vague statement, right? She had heard of quirkless children, and had even seen a few in her youth, but that didn't happen nowadays, right? Quirkless. The concept seemed almost alien. The doctor gave a resigned sigh. While it didn't happen often, he has given the news before, and the children always seemed to be cut from the same cloth, excitable, kind, bright, and always aspiring to be heroes. Why couldn't he break the news to some little brat instead? He decided this was no time for emotion, and carried on his duties. Your child is extremely unlikely to be a late bloomer. I've shown you the picture of his foot, the two pinky toe joints indicating a lack of quirk. The only thing out of the ordinary about this child is a slightly higher bone density. I am sorry, Midoriya-san. The ride home was painfully quiet and uneventful. Despite the misfortune previously handed to him in this life, Izuku Midoriya would never give up his greatest quality, the trait of generosity, a simple desire to help others. It was ingrained in his body, the milk of human kindness simply being another term for his blood. He was idealistic about it, willingly choosing to believe that anyone, quirkless or not, could make great change in the world, and those who are evil may one day find their way back to the light. I won't let you hurt him, Kaken. It's a shame these admirable qualities don't usually do anything for him personally. His ex-best friend often put a wrench in these machinations. And what are you going to do about it, Deku? You're never gonna hit back anyways, even if you did have a quirk. The bully flashed a wicked grin full of malice, and swung at Izuku, who couldn't react in time, and took the blow in all its glory. As much glory that could be mustered by a 5-year-old, anyways. He fell limp to the ground, his head colliding against it. His consciousness was on the brink of the abyss, but he could only feel rage against Kaken and himself for being the same old useless Deku who couldn't save anyone. He watched as the next victim could only sputter and freeze in fear, as most did when directly under the tyrant's gaze. A voice spoke, and a preternatural calm descended on him. He didn't hear it directly, but he certainly understood it, almost as if he was imagining it. An electric shiver coursed through his veins. He could feel his entire body change. Rebooting. Augmentations active. Situation assessment completed. Suddenly, the pain was gone. The fear was gone. The haze was gone. In their place, Izuku Midoriya was reborn. I have to protect that kid. The young hero stood up, with newfound righteous determination radiating off him. Kaken heard the sound of metal scraping behind him, and hesitated. It's not like the kid was going anywhere. He turned around, and was met with a fearsome, but admittedly cool sight. Deku was glaring at him, his arms and legs covered in a silver-black metallic texture, some muscle apparent, his face etched with thin, barely noticeable lines, as if every piece of skin was carefully manufactured to fit his skull's frame. His eyes, once with green irises and white sclera, now gold and black. His stance was solid, and his fists were clenched. He looked ready to defeat some big-shot villain. Katsuki Bakugo refused to be unnerved by the icy glare. Threat analysis concluded. Threat high. Deku, you said you didn't have a quirk. Were you lying to me this whole time? And your actual quirk was being a fucking robot? He was met with silence. The nerd was probably calculating some shit in his robo-brain or whatever. The kid behind him ran away, but that weakling was of no concern compared to what was in front of him, although Deku seemed to relax a little. Goddamn Deku. A robot? This entire time? When his awe faded at the realization of it all, a single, primal thought remained. Violence. Deku, that's honestly the coolest shit. Did Kaken just call me COL still a threat? What does he mean by RO? Maybe now you'll finally hit back, you fucking Deku-kan. Izuku regained his focus just in time, and time slowed down compared to before. Katsuki ran, and threw a punch in his most reckless fashion, and Izuku saw every step, every muscle in his arm contracting. It was absolutely surreal to see his fist gradually sliding past where his jaw used to be. He felt as though, if he really wanted to, he could grab his wrist before he pulled his arm back. Everything looks so slow. Is this my quirk? I have a quirk? On the other hand, Katsuki was furious. How the fuck did he dodge that? He looked like he didn't even try. He wasn't even paying attention to him. Like the bastard had something better to be doing. He was mumbling to himself, I in the middle of a fight for fuck's sake. Sparks were seen, and crackles were heard. He felt a smile rise to his lips. This was gonna be a strong one. Dodge this, DKU. Izuku realized what was going on too late to dodge, and put both his arms in front of him to protect his face. King Explosion Murder brought both his hands in front of him. The artillery focused right on Deku's center mass, and fucking fired that shit. He immediately felt a numbed pain in his arms. He would definitely be sore, but it would be worth it. When the smoke cleared, he saw a standing up mass of crystalline black in front of him, vaguely in the shape of a person. The inky crystal black unraveled, gradually disappearing, starting at his fucking unscathed face. Deku looked like he hadn't taken a goddamn scratch. Even his arms looked untouched, protected by whatever that crystal shit was. What the fuck? What the heck? I don't feel anything. He didn't miss anything. He never misses maybe. Katsuki roared in little 5-year-old fury, absolutely pissed that his best blast to date did nothing against this useless pebble in the road. Izuku was still lost in thought, as if he didn't even fucking notice what just happened. His mind was completely overruled by his emotions, and he tried to punch Deku again, but this time, he didn't dodge. Deku felt something collide against his face, and heard a scream, spooking him out of his train of thought. He looked up to see a crying, screaming, and cursing Bakugo holding his right hand in his left arm, cradling the injured instrument of pain. Panic overtook him when he realized what just happened. Kaken punched me, and hurt his hand, OFUCK. The aspiring hero freaked out worse than the aspiring number 1 did, frantically claiming everything would be okay, and dragged Katsuki home to get help, the former not taking a single second to take account of his new body, and the latter swearing up a storm of pain and threats the entire way. Izuku Midoriya stood worriedly in her apartment. Izuku usually got home by now. What if he got in trouble? She knew her boy wouldn't hurt a fly. But with all the bullying that she knew because of his quirkless status, she just couldn't help but worry. Maybe he lost it. Maybe he hit back, and the school was keeping him for discipline. Maybe he was ambushed by that little hellion Katsuki. Maybe he was being bullied right now. Inko sighed. Maybe she'll make Izuku a snack for when he gets home. He seemed to really like Katsudan, although that was more of a meal. She decided to go for it. Anything to keep her busy and calm her down. Suddenly, the door burst open, and what she saw was beyond belief. MOM. Kaken hurt his hand, and he needs a hospital. MOM please. Was that really Izuku? Her little boy, Inko, stood there in shock. Katsuki had an expression of rage and pain, and was clenching his right hand tenderly. Izuku no. She couldn't think about that right now. Izuku was safe, and Katsuki wasn't. Simple as that. She could figure this all out later. Let's go. A quick call to the Bakugo matriarch Mitsuki, and a hospital admittance later, Katsuki was resting not so comfortably in a bed. Thankfully, the doctor determined the injury as non-serious, so no lasting damage was to be expected. When asked how his injury occurred, Izuku stepped up and told them he accidentally punched a wall really hard, much to Kaken's dismay. He did not want Deku to help him, as if he needed it. He was fine. Still, he was content keeping the real reason quiet. Then she arrived. Katsuki, you little shit. How the hell can you break your hand punching a wall? Did you really think you can punch through walls like All Might or something? You're lucky you have such a good friend to take care of you. He didn't take care of me, you hag. All he did was walking to his MOM. I could have done that by my damn self. Mitsuku didn't dignify her son with a response, which only seemed to annoy him further, and spoke to Izuku instead, legitimately interested in the quirkless child's appearance. I really want to thank you and your mom for helping my son. The little brat just doesn't know when to stop sometimes, so what's up with the cosplay? That looks really real. Mitsuki looked at Inko, who was nearly in tears, who in turn looked at Izuku. Now that the danger was gone, the elephant in the room needed addressing. Izuku brought his mechanical wonder of an arm up, staring at it with eagle-like vision and clarity with digital eyes, enraptured in its design and control. He didn't know exactly when this had happened, only knowing that what happened to Kaken was because of him. After a few moments of thinking, he spoke up. I think this is my quirk. Mother Midoriya's emotions broke through the dam and flooded the room, taking the form of happy tears. Oh Izuku, I knew it. She rushed the poor child, picking him up and hugging him with the strength of a titan that likely would have physically broken something if Izuku was still 100% human. Now though, he just had moderate difficulty breathing, his skeletal frame holding firm through the onslaught of pure, motherly love. Mitsuki held a shocked expression on her face, a vast array of thoughts being played with and processed. Of course, this was the perfect time for the doctor to come back. Bakugo-san, your son is expected to make a full recovery from his injury in 2 to 3 weeks. Until then he should limit the use of his hand, including his explosion quirk. I also belie. What do you mean I can't explode anymore? Who the hell are you to say? He's a damn Doctoria brat. He can tell you whatever the hell to do, and you're gonna do it. I'm sorry for the interruption, please go on. The doctor wore a worried expression on his face. Were they stressed from mental traumas of some kind, or was this family just loud? He decided this wasn't something he wanted to be involved in. Besides, he had distinct memories of inadvertently crushing a certain Midoriya's dreams, but the very same one was here looking slightly different. Right, these papers will explain everything. Midoriya-san, I've noticed a most unexpected development with your son here. If I may, I'd like to determine his quirk's nature. I'm sure you, and he would like to know, as well. Inko attempted to recompose herself after the outburst, setting down a startled, but otherwise happy Izuku, who perked up at hearing an opportunity to learn more about his own quirk. Of course, please take as long as you need. I'm sure Izuku won't give you any trouble. Izuku's brightest smile appeared, setting nearly everyone's shining star in their hearts ablaze. I'll perform some tests to determine his quirk, its limits, and other information you should probably know. He drew some blood from the boy's arm, his expression unchanging the whole time. The liquid was golden, and seemed to shine through the syringe. Interesting. The doctor walked away to perform the tests, taking Izuku along, as well. Inko was left with Mitsuki and her child, but worry began to grow. How would her boy handle all the attention? It's not like he could go all day hiding his entire body, and someone was bound to notice those lines on his face soon enough, not to mention his beautiful new eyes. He would have attention drawn to him his entire life. He seemed to be stronger, but can metal even grow? If they got damaged, would they have to be repaired by a mechanic every time? Izuku could become a hero now, but being a hero was so dangerous, and she couldn't imagine him getting hurt. Would Izuku be stuck with little 5-year-old arms forever? A harrowing thought occurred. If Izuku's body was metal, did that mean, will I ever have grandchildren? Tears welled up in her eyes. She knew she was overreacting, but she couldn't help it. The entire world would seem different due to Izuku's quirk. It was better than being quirkless, but it was much more complicated now. The hypotheticals kept firing off in her mind, all while Mitsuki was politely trying to get her attention, giving up on the polite part after 4 seconds, shocking her out of her train of thought. Inko, what? Come with me, alright? Katsuki, don't break anything. Truth be told, something was bothering Mitsuki, but she couldn't discuss it in front of the kids, especially Izuku. The mothers left the room, and came out into the relatively empty hallway. The smell of cleaning alcohol and bodily fluids permanently permeated into the walls themselves. Inko was worried for Izuku, but couldn't help but wonder why her best friend brought her out, alone. Maybe something personal was going on with her life. Mitsuki was never good at being subtle or bringing herself down to someone else's comfort level, something she knew she had passed on to her own child. She figured it was better to just say it already. Is Izuku Hisashi's son? Did she just? What? Is the kid someone else's? No, fuck Mitsuki, how the hell can you ask something like that? She shrugged nonchalantly. Just curious. I mean, fire breath and weak telekinesis doesn't exactly add up to Optimus Prime. Inko was bewildered by the whole situation. Never in her life has disloyalty reared its ugly head in her thoughts, even when Hisashi was never around. Her son was all she cared about, all she ever would care about. She admitted to herself that her friend had a point though. Izuku's genetics would never likely add up to cyborg. It had to be some kind of mutation. Mitsuki responded, I dunno, I figured if there was though you'd tell me. Can't help a girl for being curious about her best friend's life. Inko glared at her. Right, nothing. Sorry. Footsteps were heard in the hallway, and the two mothers were met with the doctor, and Izuku returned from the testing room. Izuku looked a little tired but happy as ever, while the doctor had an expression of puzzlement on his face. Interesting news was inbound. Hi MOM. Izuku, please quiet down. Hi Mom. Mitsuki rolled her eyes at the exchange. Adorable, as ever those two. She opened the door for everyone, and they returned to the room. I have completed the tests. These forms will go over the finer details of his quirk, but I will explain the basics. Izuku perked up, eager to absorb as much information as he could. Despite being the one testing, and being tested on, he didn't really find that much else out. Nothing that he could put into words, anyways. Your son has a mutation-type quirk that's previously unseen before. I documented it as augmentation. His natural body is so heavily augmented with mechanical and chemical structures that, by appearance, he is more machine than man. His arms, legs, and majority of internal organs are augmented. While his augmented body parts are not technically living, they function as if they were, which means his augments will repair themselves and their host, as well as grow alongside him. His strength is comparable to a gorilla's, and will only continue to grow as he does. His motor control is excellent, and his eyesight is extraordinary, being able to see clearly in low light conditions and over long distances with minimal effort. Aside from his passive augments, he has an ability that projects a type of armor over his entire body, including his externally unaugmented chest. I have to compare it to a transformation-type quirk, as it seems to strain him significantly, and he cannot hold the armor for long. He generates energy from his own movements, and from exposure to sunlight, but his stomach is functioning perfectly, as well, likely better than before. In fact, I performed some intelligence tests, and while smart, he doesn't have any significant social or academic advantages that could be related to his quirk, at least, not for now. Whoa, That was a lot. Was that really just the basics? It seems things would be more complicated than she thought. She looked into the digital eyes of Izuku, and found hope, joy, and a steely gaze of determination. This is a good thing, she consciously reminded herself. Still, nothing wrong with getting as much information as she could. What do you mean, not for now? Well, the issue is, I cannot determine a stopping point for his mutation. He is still growing after all, and it's incredibly likely he will have access to new abilities and augments as he grows. I expect he will see new changes in the following years, so I recommend you come visit me every 6 months. That is all, Midoriya-san, exclaimed the rowdy child that was Katsuki Bakugo, having heard all the information. That's a pretty okay quirk, Deku, but I'm still gonna be a better hero than you. Mitsuki moved to scold her child, but Izuku heard none of it. All he heard was that Kaken thought he could be a hero. Years passed, and Izuku Midoriya's quirk continued to improve, provide new functions, and gradually cover ground inside his body. To Inko's amazement, the metal limbs grew alongside her son. For all intents and purposes, they were living. Of course, being the child Izuku was, he would have some issues, have some incidents over the years. Accessing deep storage data, memories washed over Izuku like a gentle stream of the amazing, as well as troublesome situations his quirk has gotten him into in premium HD. Mommy, can I help you cook, please? Well, I don't know, sweetie. You're a little young to be handling a knife. Please? Oh, fine, Izuku. But let me get a smaller one. Mom's getting me a small knife. HMPF. All Might doesn't use small knives. He eats big food to stay big, so he uses big knives. Izuku felt an odd sensation, like an electrical current was running through him. Then it was replaced with another sensation beneath his skin. Actual crawling in his skin. He brought his arm to closer inspection, and out of the upper layer of his arm, a 6-inch blade, nearly as wide as his arm, but thin enough to fit inside, protruded from just above his wrist, going directly over his knuckles, seeming impossibly close to grazing them. Izuku gasped at the sight, and tested his other arm, the same process occurring. This is so cool. I'm like that Canadian hero with the claws. I can cut anything. Izuku looked at the cutting board, and the vegetables on it. A devious smile crept onto his face, as his idea took place. Unfortunately, Mommy returned just as he was about to test his blades. Izuku put those back where they came from right now. But Mom, I just want to. Now, sweetie. Chills came down the child's neck when he realized how serious Mom was being, and retracted the blades into his arms. What he didn't realize was that Inko thought he was holding the blades, not that they were a part of him. Upon seeing her son retract literal blades into his arms, she screamed. And that's why All Might could be beaten by Eraserhead. As if, even if his super strength could be erased, and I don't think it can, he is still a massive titan against some skinny ninja. Hey, Eraserhead isn't skinny. Not everyone can be as built as All Might. I'm just saying that Eraserhead is the perfect counter. The moment he closes his eyes, All Might is gonna rush him faster than he can open them again. You're just delusional. Oh my god, you are such a fan, Midoriya. Are you sure you don't have some kind of malfunction in your subroutines? Izuku hated that joke. Just because his quirk made him look like a robot didn't mean I'm not a robot, Shinso-san. Oh yeah? So why is it I can't brainwash you, HM? It works on everyone else except you. Whenever I try with you, it feels like I'm being blocked by something. I can see your brain, but I can't touch it. Izuku paused. Was that really true? It explains the weird looks he randomly gave me from time to time. But is my brain really not human anymore? What even am I? Shinso sighed. Midoriya was going on another one of his famous muttering to himself rants. He's heard about it before, but he never really thought he'd witness it. Not more than twice a day, anyways. Suddenly, Izuku abruptly stopped, and his void-like golden eyes rolled into the back of his head for the smallest of moments, before immediately returning and continuing his muttering. It was disturbing, to say the least. Midoriya? Yes, Shinso-san? What was that? Izuku felt a tinge of red and heat infecting his cheeks and his ears. Did he notice? Damn it, I hate it when that happens. There's no warning or anything. Sometimes I really wish I could just disappear and not have to be such a weird malfunctional robot. And so, he did. Holy shit. What's wrong, Shinso? You're not there. But I can hear you. Where are you, Midoriya? Izuku didn't understand what was going on. Shinso didn't usually play pranks on him, but he was in fact here. He was looking at where Izuku was, but not directly at him, as if his face was moved somewhere else on his body. I'm right here, I never moved. Stop acting weird. I can kinda see his brain, so I'm not imagining things. I can't see him, but I can hear him. Is the answer really so simple? I thought he had an armor ability. Not. Hey Midoriya, look at your hand. Izuku hesitated. His hand? Was this some kind of brainwash attempt? He didn't feel the urge either. Maybe he ought to anyway. Shinso seemed weird right now, and he didn't want to freak him out any further. He took a glance, and holy shit, where's my hand? Shinso, oh crap, where's my hand? Why is this happening to me? I don't understand. Midoriya, it's fine. You're just invisible. Invisible? How can I be invisible? Is someone using their quirk on me? I knew Shinso was playing a prank. I bet one of his friends is spying on us. Shinso, I know you're involved in this somehow. I swear I have nothing to do with this. No pranks. Honest. Maybe it's part of your quirk? Like the armor? Like the armor? The augmented future hero focused and concentrated on that feeling. That feeling of wanting to be away from the prying eyes of the world, the stress and anxiety that came with being stared at for the void in his eyes, and the metallic texture of his skin, the unpleasant, unwanted glares received when he made a mistake. He focused on that horrible ball of emotion in his stomach and let it go. It's okay if he messed up. It's okay if he was looked at funny. Heroes make mistakes sometimes, and they always get stared at. He didn't need to hide the way he looked, because soon he would look like a hero instead. The invisibility unraveled, exposing a boy who felt a newfound pride in himself. Then he nearly fell to his knees because goddamn was invisibility exhausting. So you figured it out? Izuku could barely respond, his respiratory system temporarily on overdrive to keep him in the realm of consciousness. Yes, I did. I'm gonna be a hero, Shinso-san. I'm gonna be the best hero ever. Shinso felt a sting of shame at hearing the words. Izuku certainly had the quirk to do it, but he recognized something else. He had the spirit for it too. It was the one thing he wanted, more than anything in the entire world. The entire world couldn't stop him if it tried. I know you will, Izuku. Hanging out with Kaken was always kinda weird. They played games, and talked, and did things like normal friends would, but it always seemed like he was doing it out of necessity. This time was no different, except today his true intentions would be shown. While Kaken were heading out kinda far, huh? Izuku was a little worried. While certainly old, and powerful enough to take care of himself from the average thug, especially with Kaken with him, he wasn't sure what to make of going this far into their normal playing woods. What if they ran into a bear with a gigantism quirk, or a wolf with a speed quirk? This far out, the noise and relative safety of civilization was lost to them. Then Izuku bumped into the explosive team because he wasn't paying attention again. Deku, quit your muttering, and look where you're going. The little twerp was muttering again. It didn't surprise him in the slightest, but he'd at least figure out why he brought him out here, right? Katsuki looked at Izuku, a rather Deku expression on his face. Guess not. Whatever. Threat assessment, moderate. What? Where? Katsuki sparked up, firecrackers going off in his hands. Deku froze. Is this the threat? Is this why he brought him out here? To beat him up? He looked at the king of explosions, and possibly murders, and saw he was not joking around. A cruel grin full of malice, just like when they were boys. Damn it, Kaken! I don't want to fight you. I thought things were better now. Was it just an act? Kaken, shut up, Deku. I'm sick of you looking down on me. You might have a more versatile quirk, but there's no way in hell you can fight the big villains All Might fights with your quirk. So just give it up already. The angry Splody Boi rushed forward to deliver a vicious right hook, which was barely dodged by Izuku. He's gotten faster. I don't want to hurt you, Kaken. Let's just play or something, please. Suddenly, a shiver made its way through the August. It felt as if every nerve was lightly grazed by a feather. It wasn't painful, but it was a pressure so intense it felt as if his very soul was touched. His eyes rolled into the back of his head. Fucking fight back already. Katsuki aimed an explosion at him, center mass, and let loose. The blast obliterated the area behind Izuku, taking 2 innocent trees from this world, and injuring 3. Izuku was too stunned by whatever the hell that malfunction was to get his armor set up. At least he finally got a good shot off on him. He waited until the smoke cleared, and saw him, flat on his ass with the stupidest look on his face. The explosive teen's heart went aflutter at the sight. Hey, DKU, you dead or something? No. Sweet, get back up. Izuku was stunned in more ways than one. What the hell just happened? That feeling I get when a new augment shows up, but it's like All Might was backing it up or something, and just beat me into the dirt. I hope I got something good. Deku, get up. Wait, Kaken, let me just. I said get fucking up. Will you just fucking wait? A pause. Oh god, did I just? Please don't hurt me, please don't hurt me, please don't hurt me, please. Katsuki paused, as well. Did he just fucking hear that right? Did Deku just fucking talk back to him? Who the fuck does he think he is? He should fucking pummel him for that yet. He wasn't really upset. Sure, Deku didn't get up, and didn't stop being annoying ever. But if he was willing to talk back to him, that means he's finally growing a pair, and might fucking fight back for once. About damn time. Deku was muttering to the point of hyperventilation, completely unnecessary, as always. He figured he'd have to take this slowly, introduce it as training or some shit like that. Explosions versus the wimp's wimpy armor. See who runs out of juice first. Not a bad idea. Oh my god, is this it? Is this the end? Oh my god, please don't kill me. My hero name is about to be stained because by the time he's done. Deku, quit your damn crying. I'm not gonna kill you today. Today, I have an idea. We ain't really gotta fight. But what if we trained instead? Katsuki struggled with those last few words. Not fighting? It feels so unnatural, but it'd probably fucking work at least. He wants to train with me? Sure Kaken, that could work I guess. What did you have in mind? Kaken gave an evil grin, happy to return to his old self. Your armor against my explosions. Oh, the memories ceased their flow, and Izuku could only laugh at his own inexperience with his abilities. Over time he had honed them to be usable more consistently, but they still drained him quite a bit. Especially the last one, Pheromone emitter. It took him a long time to figure that one out. On command, or sometimes, not on command, which was quite embarrassing, he could release undetectable pheromones, a mix of microscopic stimulants or depressants that would be inhaled by those around him, and the chemical makeup of those particles would affect the brain directly, either calming them down or riling them up. When he told Kaken about what happened, he was pissed, but he never stopped the training. Izuku smiled at realizing he used his powers to help his friend, in his own small way. The August smiled. Life was good, wasn't it? The day passed without much event. Izuku went through all his normal classes, successfully interacting when he was required to, passing with flying colors. Today was the day the students would think seriously about their future, though naturally everyone wanted to go to the various hero courses around the country, seeking money, glory, or a straight-up adrenaline rush in the form of an occupation. Too few wanted to be a hero for the sole purpose of helping people. 2 in that room dared to dream of attending Yui High, the most prestigious heroics establishment in the world, one of which was Izuku Midoriya, which the teacher was so kind as to announce to the entire class. Suddenly, the day stopped being uneventful. Katsuki Bakugo started sweating, all for the wrong reasons. Crackles and miniature explosions erupted from his palms, a clear announcement to the class that he was about to set something straight, and it probably involved Izuku. He rushed over to the cyborg's desk and slammed his hands on the table. DKU, you really think you can compete with me in Yui? You need more than just shitty robot punches to beat villains. You just gonna stand there and let them wail on your armor until someone saves your ASS? The class chuckled at Bakugo's assertive approach, and a few took out their phones the moment Midoriya's name was called, knowing just how predictably it would play out. Bakugo would get his panties in a twist. Midoriya would try to get him to chill, usually by giving up entirely, which Bakugo already knew would probably be a fucking lie, and Bakugo would say something along the lines of HMPF, damn straight, and stomp back to his chair so he could get pissed off at something else in the next 10 to 30 minutes. It was the natural order of things. Actually Kaken, I'm gonna be the #1 hero, said the metallic protagonist, sporting a haughty tone. What the fuck did he just say? The class erupted in a mass mixture of laughter, howling, gasps, and jeering towards the 2 rivals, those of which had taken a side affectionately referred to themselves as the Baku squad or the Deku squad, and then turned this mob emotion towards each other, all while the teacher in the room was trying not to laugh at his class antics. Izuku's mind wasn't too terribly complicated, never was. It was efficient, and certainly one of the better ones, but it ran on emotions, just as most of them did. What he was feeling right now was not something he was ever used to feeling, but it did feel good, so naturally it consumed every fiber of his being for a short period of time like a new crush or a new augmentation. What Izuku was feeling couldn't be described as anything else other than self-satisfied, superior, and smug. Izuku felt smug. A week ago during one of his regular training sessions, Deku had, through a few mistakes on Bakugo's part, and not shitty usage of armor, and cowardly maneuvering, managed to outlast his own explosion quirk. Ever since his victory, if making an enemy tired could even be considered that, Deku radiated this bullshit glow of rainbows out his ass. He hadn't expected this holier-than-thou attitude to extend to the classroom. He was gonna wipe that stupid-ass shit-eating grin off his face, mark his words, while Katsuki was formulating a response to put this dumb motherfucker in his place that wasn't in the form of physically beating him within an inch of his life, which he certainly wanted to do, but wouldn't risk Yui for it. The clock struck that special time in every student's heart. The class was free to leave the school and prepare for their futures, the vast majority probably needing to find another dream profession in 10 months. Deku was already out the door, leaving the explosive teen raging, and pushing through the crowds in an effort to catch up, and politely inform him of his inaccurate statement. Just kidding, he was catching up to beat his ass. Izuku deactivated his invisibility, freeing himself from a significant strain. All of a sudden, the sun's rays seemed more appealing now. He rolled up his restrictive school uniform sleeves the best he could, and checked to see if the coast was clear. He sighed, and returned back to the path he used whenever he wanted to avoid Kaken. It wasn't like he was a bad guy or anything, just too loud, and angry for his liking sometimes. He thought back to what he said in class, and giggled to himself like a child. What emotion overtook him, and compelled him to say those words? He had no idea, but it was intoxicating. It felt as if he was good at something, better than others even. Was this what they called pride? If this is what Kaken felt all the time, why was he so angry? Man, he's gonna be so mad at training. Suddenly, he felt something. It happened again. Izuku looked around, and saw nothing. He probed around for any new augments, nothing on either front. Something was going on, and he was noting on it. Threat assessment high. Kaken? Come on, it wasn't that bad. Then the sewer plate behind him exploded. Vibrations. I was feeling vibrations, stupid D. Damn All Might. What the hell is he doing here? 2 minutes I got TW. Izuku felt a primal terror go up his back. The kind of human fear that has kept us alive since times of old. It was the feeling of being in someone's sight. He looked around, and his digital eyes were met with something really gross looking. The villainous creature stood at an intimidating height, staring right at him with an evil grin. Although standing wasn't the right word, it looked entirely made out of a sludge substance, which seemed fitting considering it came out of a sewer. The words it spoke next would provoke fear, and a combative instinct. Mechanical mutation type, not my preferred taste, but it'll do just fine. Izuku's survival instincts kicked in just in time for the sludge villain to send a tendril towards his knees, intending to get him on the ground. The attack was just barely dodged, and Izuku came to a dire realization. He said he has 2 minutes. What does it mean? Is it his quirk limit, or is someone chasing him? I can't just run. If he's willing to go for me on sight, he'll probably attack anyone else he sees. I have to distract him until help arrives. Combat assessment concluded. Enemy combatant is composed of a liquid substance and is able to control its own viscosity fully. It is faster than it appears, and stronger than you are. It seeks to possess your body and escape from a greater threat in disguise. Armor, ineffective. Blunt force, ineffective. Countered by faster reactions using arm blades and by exploiting its vulnerable eyes. Izuku paused. Arm blades. He discovered the augment when he was young and thought they were the coolest, but now he was well aware of how dangerous they are. They could easily kill if he wasn't careful, and could seriously injure even if he was. He extended the blades a foot and a half past his knuckles. The edges were kept incredibly sharp by his internal systems, and the length had increased as he grew up. The sludge villain grinned upon seeing the blades, and the child's new, more fluid stance. You making some kind of plan, kid? Good shit. Now dodge this. The villain spit out some sludge towards Izuku, which he easily dodged, but at the same time, sent out a massive tendril that forcefully collided with him. Izuku was sent flying, and slammed against the wall so hard it cracked. A golden ichor oozed from his mouth, and he scolded himself for falling for such an obvious ruse. Something was definitely broken. I ain't fucking stupid, boy. You're not the first or the last. Now just stay still, and this'll be over soon. The second wind hit Izuku like a train, and he fully forgot any repercussions of hurting the villain, this being a matter of life and death. With a desperate scream, he swung the blade at the villain, who almost leaped away unscathed, if not for the large gash in his right eye. Reddish sludge leaked out of the wound, and the trash reject roared in pain. Fuck this SHIT, and fuck All Might. I'm gonna kill your stupid ASS if it's the last thing I do. The August stopped, completely sure he misheard him. Did you just say All Might? If Trash Face could pale, he probably would at this moment. Exactly how much time had passed again. The two combatants stared at each other, one in glee, and the other in terror, before a rumbling was felt, and a mountain of a man crawled out of the sewer hole. I am here! Oh my god, it's All Might. God fucking duh. Faster than either of them could comprehend, All Might dashed forward and got Izuku out of the line of fire, before looking back at him with a knowing wink. Good job on the defense, boy, but I'll take it from here. Enjoy the show. All Might turned towards the villain, who could only quiver under the gaze of the symbol of peace. In a last desperate act, he willed half his mass into various tentacles and sent them towards All Might, who dashed under them and brought his massive fist forward, bellowing a mighty war cry. Texas smash. The sludge villain had fallen. Its liquid form that was once held together was now splattered on every surface, as if it was hit by a train, although a train would probably do less damage. Izuku started, wide-eyed, in awe at the sheer power that was All Might. The behemoth looked back towards him, prompting a surge of fanboyism previously unseen. Oh my god, All Might, that was amazing. How does your body handle that kind of power? I mean, I considered maybe you just grew up with it, and trained, but still it's so crazy. The child continued on ranting, but he seemed good-natured. He had blood on his hands, and a golden substance over his face, contrasting with his mostly void eyes. There was a crack on the wall. Perhaps the boy had been thrown into it. If he wasn't part machine, it likely would have killed him. All Might felt a pang of guilt for letting the villain escape in the first place. Because of his incompetence, a child had to defend himself against a full-fledged villain. The boy was lively, as ever. But what happened when that injury caught up to him? The adrenaline would wear off sometime, and the villain still needed to be apprehended. What is your name, young man? Izuku took a deep breath. This is All Might he's talking to. He should make an impression at least, especially since he wants to be a hero, he answered, as firmly as he could, along with a bow. Izuku Midoriya, thank you for saving me, sir. Sir? All Might let out a bellowing laugh. This kid was too cute. Brave, as well, considering he faced down a villain perhaps? No need for sir or the gesture of young Midoriya. It's all part of being a hero. Tell me, are you injured? That golden stain on your face is most unusual. Oh this? It's my blood. I coughed some up when I hit that wall. Don't worry though, my body is good at repairing itself. Izuku cringed at the sudden increase in noise in his voice. Calm down, damn it. I am glad to hear that. Well, I must clean up the villain and get it to the station. I'm sure someone else needs saving. Wait, how about I help you clean him up? All Might's smile seemed more genuine then. The child was kind, as well. A real catch, perhaps he was worthy? Young Midoriya. The name simply rolled off the tongue in an almost eloquent manner. Maybe he'll ask him later. He didn't want to further implicate the child in hero work. He was technically breaking a law or two already, as well as the fact that he was approaching his personal limit. Still, glancing at the boy's extremely human expression despite his quirk, what the hell. Of course, my boy. However, I'd ask you to keep your mouth shut about this, you hear? This isn't exactly legal. Izuku nearly squealed. He was personally helping All Might. A thought occurred to him. He had nearly every piece of All Might merchandise there was, except. And of course, I'll sign an autograph for you when it's all done. Am I in heaven? After the Sludge villain was safely secured in some 2 liters, All Might's autograph offer was fulfilled, and Izuku gave All Might his exact weight. An odd request, but what was he supposed to say? The number 1 hero grabbed the number 1 fanboy and gently placed him on his own massive shoulders. Izuku barely had time to react, and held on for dear life, screaming the whole way, as All Might launched himself away from the ground like a rocket, accelerating with such force Izuku nearly slipped off him despite his own immense strength. All Might gracefully landed on a rooftop that towered above the other buildings in the area, and set the kid down. Thankfully no one was around. He hoped he was using the proper judgment with Midoriya, because this information was not something he could screw up with. He already felt a hot steam rising off his torso, extending to his legs and forearms. The symbol of peace took a deep breath and spoke calmly. Young man, I have something to show you, and an offer to make. As you know, I have been the world's symbol of peace and justice for a very long time. I cannot last forever, but my power can. The steam that was previously around All Might exploded into a cloud, and when it settled, a ghastly figure remained. He was skeletal, and honestly looked rather sick. His clothes. He's wearing what All Might was wearing. That can't possibly be. The sickly man stared at him. If he didn't know better, he would have thought he was glaring. A moderate amount of blood leaked out of his mouth as he recomposed himself. Young man, my name is Toshinori Yagi. I am the number 1 hero, All Might. My quirk, One for All, is a quirk that can be passed down like a sacred torch from one user to the next, making it one of the oldest quirks in existence. I see a great amount of potential in you, Izuku Midoriya. I asked you one question. Do you wish to be the world's next symbol of peace? To be the very best hero? To be someone who would inspire the world with his smile? This was exactly what he wanted. From that very first All Might video, that was his dream, and yet something felt wrong. Quirk assessment completed. One for All allows the user to gain unrivaled levels of raw strength through their bodies, and can be transferred to other humans through unknown means, incompatible with augmentation. One for All requires living tissue as a conduit. Majority mass of augmentation users is unliving tissue. God fucking damn it. For the first time in a while, Izuku felt completely and utterly crushed. Out of all the quirks he could have gotten, all the situations he could have been placed in, he managed to be in a situation where his dream would certainly come true, if not for his own damn mechanical mutation-type quirk. The power of All Might would never be known to him, and he couldn't help but feel the sorrow of erased potential weigh on him. He would have cried if he was capable, instead emitting a series of pheromones and holding his head in his cold hands. All Might seemed taken aback. The man suddenly felt despair and sorrow, heavy as lead. He drew his own conclusions. Young Midoriya, are the quirk parts of you technically unliving? Izuku nodded. I am sorry, young man. Do you? Yes. I do believe you can still be the number 1 hero. Izuku stared in shock at All Might. The words, he said them. How could he let something like his own quirk stop him? Some people didn't even have quirks, rare as they were. His own quirk was rightly powerful, having as many functions as it did. Yui was in 10 months, and he had to be ready. Thank you, All Might. I won't let anyone down. All Might flared up, briefly entering his muscular form to deliver words in a more inspirational tone. I know you can do it. Go beyond. Izuku didn't hesitate. Plus Ultra. 10 months have passed since Izuku's encounter with Earth's mightiest hero. Since then, he has trained with Kaken, and refined his abilities to a formidable degree. His armor was nigh indestructible, and could be held for 3 minutes at a time before exhaustion caught up with him, and needed a break. His invisibility was more strenuous though, and could only be held for 1.5 minutes. He could punch and slice through most types of trees with minimal damage to his own body, and his lung capacity was an impressive 8 minutes, which was great because he couldn't swim at all. The first time he went to the pool since his augmentations activated, he literally sank to the bottom of the pool. He has grown leaps and bounds, and now he is ready. The entrance exam to Yui was right there. All he had to do was take that first step. DKU. Kaken was next to him in an instant and gave him a hearty clap on his shoulder, except it was actually more of a smack. It was actually on his head, and he unleashed a somewhat controlled explosion on contact, likely causing a serious brain injury to anyone whose skeletal system wasn't reinforced. And so that first step into the future of heroics was a complete and utter failure. The pavement rushed up to meet him, but a flash of pink and a sturdy pair of arms later, he was right back up, disoriented and confused, but unharmed. Hey dude, you alright? You nearly made out with the ground. Oh my god, a girl. Izuku looked up to see the girl's back to him. She and Kaken were in a glaring contest. Oh no. Wait, he's my friend. The girl stopped what she was about to say and turned around, and holy super crap, she was cute. Her skin, as well as her hair, were pink. She had a pair of horns jutting out of her mess of curly hair that seemed to fit so perfectly despite its chaos. Her face was aesthetically pleasing to look at, bordering beautiful, and her expression was strong and genuine, a mixture of anger and concern. The most breathtaking thing, however, were her eyes. A vast, nearly empty void with a single sun in the center. The yellow irises were downright piercing in their intensity, as if everything she looked at was being blessed or cursed with the warmth or power of a supernova. It was like looking at a black hole, with your single greatest desire on the other side, daring, begging for you to reach out and grab it, to overcome the impossible just to grasp, even for just a moment, eternal happiness. He's your OH, my god, your eyes. The girl's squeal of disbelief snapped the boy out of his stupor, but her smile reeled him back in, as if All Might himself decided to pick up fishing. She was downright beautiful now, and he was stuck between the choices of stopping a misunderstanding between her and Kaken, explaining his quirk to her, asking about her quirk, and asking if she's also aiming for the hero course. Given these circumstances, he did his best. Ichiwayu, thanks for stopping my fall. I'm not too good with falling. This here is my friend Kaken. He was just messing around with that whole smacking meeting. My quirk makes me pretty tough, so I can take it. And it makes my eyes like yours too. Like yours? That's too personal. I should have said like this. Kaken was visibly annoyed at the word friend. Deku, we're not friends. We train together because everyone else is too fucking scared to train with me. Listen here, Raccoon Eyes number 2. Kakani's a nickname, and only Deku gets to say it, because he's the only one who can survive the consequences of saying it. So if you feel like keeping your arms attached, you won't fucking say it. Name is Katsuki Bakugo. The girl looked annoyed at the explosive teen's attitude, but didn't dwell on it. Deku seemed nice enough, if a bit nervous, and red in the face. He was probably used to having to keep his friend on a leash around others. Deku spoke up, some forced lightheartedness in his tone. What a kid, right? Well, Kaken, I'm the closest you got to a friend. He looked even more pissed off now, but he didn't deny the statement. The girl spoke again. Hello, Bakugo. What's your name, Deku? Mine is Mina Ishido. I didn't know you were friends. I guess everyone shows their care differently. I can tell he's just a big softie. For the first time since they met, Deku laughed and gave a genuine smile. And whoa, it was something. He looked like someone turned a puppy into a human being. How could that ever mean to that face? My name is Izuku Midoriya, and Kaken is a softie. Why, one time while we were training, Bakugo scoffed and headed to the auditorium where they would receive instructions for the physical portion of the entrance exam. He didn't need to hang around for whatever bullshit moment Deku misinterpreted as kindness. Don't stay too long with your girlfriend, Deku. If you don't fucking get into Yi, I'm finding someone else to train with. Girlfriend? That seemed to do it, Mina noted. Midoriya was having some kind of panicky episode, flailing his arms and stuttering, trying to retort to his friend, but failed miserably. She did take the gist of it though. He was embarrassed and shy around those concepts, wasn't he? This is gonna be fun. She got rather close to Midoriya, wrapped her arms around his neck, like a blushing bride just wedded, and spoke with a refined posh. Oh Izuku, you won't just let him say those horrible things, will you? What an uncivilized brute. The look on his face was priceless. Oh my god, Midoriya, you're too much, dude. That's not funny, Ishido-san. You sure? Why are you smiling then? God damn it, I am smiling. This girl is merciless. So he started laughing, as well, because in all honesty Ishido did pull a good joke, and for a brief moment, there was no training, no Yui, no heroes or villains. It was just Izuku with his friend, having fun. Izuku realized that she hadn't let go of him yet, and his face received a new wave of red, but Ishido couldn't help but stare at him. The green-haired, golden-eyed boy had freckles, but there was something off, an inconsistency in the canvas, barely noticeable, but it was there. A line went right through one of his freckles, as if his face was carefully assembled by some kind of surgeon or mechanic. What a weird quirk. How long have I been holding on to him like this? She let go of him immediately, just now realizing how unintentionally close she had gotten to inspect him. A splash of light violet blush betrayed her, and crept onto her face. Desperate to change the subject, she asked him about his quirk, or would have, if Izuku didn't beat her to the punch. Hey Ishido, I hope you don't mind me asking, but what does your quirk do? I'm really interested in how you look. Oh, are you now? As if he read her thoughts, or spent a second to realize how that came out, he immediately broke into another blush, looking away, and keeping himself deathly quiet. Ishido giggled at his social inexperience, but ignored it otherwise, feeling merciful after the stunt she pulled on him. She pulled up her sleeve, and let a few drops of hydrofluoric acid drip out, heavily diluted of course. I don't mind Midoriya at all, my quirk is called acid. I can kinda squeeze acid out through my skin, and can control its concentration and slipperiness. I have this cool technique that lets me surf off solid ground. As for my appearance, the skin is from the acid, but the rest is all natural genetics. Midoriya got over his embarrassment incredibly fast upon hearing her talk about her quirk. He stared at her while she talked, completely absorbed and into it. When she stopped talking, he immediately started, eager to share his thoughts. That's so cool. You could be a great hero, Ishido. You could break out of or break through any restraints to save hostages, and you could also melt locks and such to ambush villains, or maybe you could shoot the acid out of your hands like a mist, so you could incapacitate even really strong villains, as long as they have eyes. You could also be a scary hero, Gang Orca, and Endeavor are really intimidating, and that makes villains more likely to surrender instead of fight. If you get yourself a good costume, you could make yourself look like a demon or a monster. Whoa, he is super into this. I like his energy. So this is what makes him take heroes and quirks. I never realized how many uses my acid could have, plus shooting it like a mist instead of a bucket of sludge. Why haven't I thought of that? An intimidating hero, huh? I could totally go for that. I have the eyes and the horns for it. Demon or monster or alien. God, this boy was smart. Smart with pretty eyes like hers. Eyes. His quirk. Hey Midoriya, I'm kinda curious about your quirk. Does it give you night vision? Night vision? Izuku paused. It's not like it was a bad guess or anything. It just made him realize how much of a blessing his quirk was, despite the drawback of not accepting one for all. Some people really did just have night vision or some quirk that made their eyes unusual. Hell, he read about a quirk that broke the user's bones. That's it. Some didn't even have quirks. The thought of a bone-breaking quirk passed through him like a tremor, filling his plastic stomach with the uneasy sensation of déjà vu. Midoriya, are you still there? I didn't break you again, did I? Oh, sorry Ishido-san. I was just lost in thought. Izuku rolled up his sleeve, revealing the technological marvel of a limb to her, flexing his metallic muscle, and slowly moving his fingers around, demonstrating their function. The wonder on her face was as clear as the stars in her eyes. My quirk is called Augmentation, and it replaces my limbs and some of my insides with cybernetic counterparts, basically upgrading my entire body to work better. My eyes do see very well in the dark, and much better than normal eyes. As well, I'll explain the rest to you on the way there cause we're about to be late. You're like a robot, Midoriya. So cool. Izuku usually disliked that term, but this time it didn't bother him as much. Izuku explained as much as he could about his quirk to Ishido until they were forced to separate from their individual seatings. They learned about the physical exam from the hero present mic. Then a somewhat stuck-up boy with glasses called his muttering habit out, and he discovered that him and Kaken would not be in the same battle simulation, to which he commented, good. Your dumbass would probably need saving when you realize your offensive potential is utter crap. So you're saying you'd stop thrashing villains to save me, Kaken? You saying I'm not able to beat up villains and save people? That's what a hero does, right? You think you can do better, DKU? That's the Kaken I know. They split paths after leaving the auditorium, and Izuku found himself in front of massive walls guarding a hollow city. The sheer lack of sound was surreal. He had forgotten what true silence felt like. The atmosphere was tense and uneasy. The rest of the contestants were quietly talking amongst themselves and performing stretches. One in particular had pink skin with horns. It's Ishido. I wonder what she thinks about the Physica. You're not thinking of disturbing her while she's stretching, are you? You should know better than to sabotage someone else's concentration for your own personal benefit. Shameful. I do hope you're taking this as seriously as you should. Izuku flushed, as the other students chuckled at the fierce scolding the tall boy with the glasses dished out. Damn it, this guy is here too? He certainly doesn't pull any punches. That means I can't either. Yui will be a tough school, and heroes receive criticism all the time, even when they do things well. I have to be more assertive. Like Kaken, he would always win. Assertive. Kaken. Hey, listen here, glasses guy. I think you should, take your opinion and, stick it like this dash. But before Izuku could finish embarrassing himself, and everyone else via second-hand embarrassment, a super loud Geo rang off, and the gates to the concrete jungle opened. Well, there are no countdowns in real life? Get moving, kiddos. Timer started, 10 minutes. We will continue this exchange later. The sheer intensity from the tall applicant was intimidating, and he broke off in a run. Izuku briefly saw his legs before he rocketed away. A speed quirk? Damn it, I need to catch up. Izuku sprinted to the previously soulless city, eager to rack up some points, get into Yui, pass everything the best he could, become a sidekick, turn into a pro hero, turn into the best pro hero, and continue the era of peace that All Might had started. Nothing too serious, just the fate of the world. Relax, one thing at a time, right? All Might didn't become number one by freaking out. He spotted a one-pointer, and adrenaline was administered through his system. It was fight or flight, but was leaning towards fight. Combat assessment completed. Threat low. One-pointer robot, composed of steel and wiring, not faster or stronger than you are. Attacks with rubber bullets from firearms. Vulnerable to arm blade augment and blunt force trauma. Good enough. Izuku rushed forward towards the robot, extending his arm blades and activating his crystalline armor around his face, as the robot took notice of him and rained a hailstorm of rubber ammunition towards him. Most of them missed, and the ones that did hit did not create enough force to stagger him back. He got in close and slashed the robot's single tire with one blade to stop it from moving, and decapitated it with the other to get to that point. One down, way more to go. He repeated this process a few more times, desperately picking up his pace while also looking for something other than one-pointers, please. He rounded a corner, and was met with a sight that was a pure example of biting off more than you can chew. The rude speedster and some blonde dude with a fancy belt were pinned underneath multiple 2- and 3-pointers, who were emitting ominous sounds that could only be described as laughing. Izuku leapt into action. Combat assessment complete. Threat high. 2-pointer robot, scorpion-like frame. Its tail attacks will overwhelm your defenses. Similar speed to your own. Equipped with thermal imaging technology. Invisibility augmentation, ineffective. Vulnerable to blunt force trauma and superior reflexes. 3-pointer robot, tank-like frame. Significantly slower than 1-pointer. Immensely stronger than you are. Missile pads composed of non-lethal incapacitating chemicals. The respiratory filtration system can filter these chemicals for 2 minutes before overuse. Vulnerable to arm blade and invisibility augment. Have to watch out for the 2-pointers. Izuku changed course last second, nearly being pinned by one of the 2-pointer tails that cracked the concrete. One of the 3-pointers launched a gas between the speedster and the fancy belt, putting both of them to sleep, and joined its allies to face the new threat. Izuku counted and changed position. 2 scorpions and 3 tanks. The scorpions were more dangerous due to their speed, while he could mostly ignore the tanks until he needed to step out of the gas to let his breathing catch up, as fighting while holding his breath would severely diminish his breath-holding abilities. He gave himself 3 minutes before he had to retreat. How much time did he have again? 5:44. Good enough. I hope so. Izuku let a scorpion try and lunge for the kill, and dodged the tail gracefully before grabbing its face with both hands, and tore it into 2 with his formidable strength. The tanks approached slowly behind, and unleashed a salvo of gas missiles on his location. His filtration system activated, and he continued undaunted. The other scorpion feinted a tail strike, but instead grabbed his arm with its pincers, catching him off guard, and then went in with its tail, landing a successful blow against the augmented applicant, who nearly crumbled under the strike. Nearly. Holy shit, that might have broke something. I hope those 2 didn't get hit this hard. Izuku kept his footing, and grabbed at the pincer still clamped on using his free arm, lifted both of his arms over his head, and slammed the robot on the ground with as much force as he could, stunning the foe. With as much force as he could muster, he stomped in the head of the beast, a symphony of metal on metal reverberating through the air. Izuku looked towards the 3-pointer steadily advancing towards him, took a deep breath, and remembered his technique. Calm, flowing like water. One day we are here, the next we may not be here, and that is okay. We live, and we die. No one will have the best time, and that is alright. If I die, and fade from the memory of the entire world, where no one will ever know I existed, that's okay, because I did exist. And even if it's never known, what I've done, what I will do, will change the world immeasurably. Nobody may know my worth, and that's okay. I know my worth. I know my worth doesn't need to be recognized by anyone. So thought Izuku, before leaving the visible spectrum. What has happened? Thought Tenya Ida. The ground was harsh concrete, and he was laying on it. He must be in a dangerous situation. He does not normally lay down on concrete. The memories came flooding back. He was in the entrance exam for Yui. He was fighting 1-pointers and 2-pointers with ease, but that all came to an abrupt halt when he tried to smash open a 3-pointer, only for his leg to bounce harmlessly off the metal machine's plating. It was far stronger than he had anticipated. Nothing short of a reciprocal burst could destroy it, he concluded too late. The machine had gotten a hand on him and put him to sleep. Now he was awake and the admittedly stylish French imitator was waking, as well. The 3 pointers were on the other side of the road, shrouded by what was likely sleeping gas, and what he saw seemed to defy logic. In a spectacular display of sparks and methodical precision, the 3-pointer tanks were being sliced open, eviscerated, decapitated, mutilated, decimated, and multiple other words he knew, all with their exact descriptions applied to the robots. It's as if a pair of invisible swords were engaged in a dance, either their main goal to bump into as many other dancers as possible, and it was working. First the arms would be cut off at the elbows, then the treads of the tanks were sliced upwards, sideways, and diagonally, and the finisher was a decapitation here, a head-to-chest downward slice there, and once a pure stabbing frenzy, as if the swords were looking for the very heart of the beast. It looked senselessly violent, but Ida could tell, at its core, it was cold, calculated efficiency. When the last tank fell, Izuku ran out of the sleeping gas and deactivated his invisibility. He was almost panting, having held invisibility nearly too long while dispatching the robots. Seems the speedster and casual elegance had woken up. Timer? Hey guys, the robots knocked you out with some kind of sleeping gas. I wish I could say more, but I really want to get in, so bye. Just like that, he left the two safe, but disoriented on the ground. Timer? 1:47. Crap, I gotta find more. Izuku rushed around the nearby streets, but it seemed like every villain bot was already destroyed by the others. Did he even have enough points? No. Don't think about how many you have, just keep looking. Suddenly, at what was exactly the 1:30 mark, a threatening alarm blared through the city, and Izuku felt it, a familiar sensation he only felt once before, roughly 10 months ago, during the Sludge villain incident. Tremors, vibrations, something life-threatening is coming. Shrieks and screaming rang out from the very end of the street. A mere 300 feet away was the 0-pointer. It was a massive robot, roughly the same size as the buildings surrounding it, and it was on a warpath, ignoring the city, and advancing towards the congregation of applicants who had come to save it. Combat assessment, complete. Threat, overwhelming. 0-pointer robot, overwhelming height, weight, size, and strength advantage. Speed is inconsequential. Equipped with thermal scanners. No vulnerabilities. Do not engage. You don't have to tell me twice. Then, he heard her. She's close to it. Damn it! Someone help me. Do not engage. Mina. The hero-to-be broke off into a desperate sprint. His adrenaline administers going into overdrive when it became aware their host was charging straight into a downright suicidal situation. His speed picked up, and he took sight of the situation. Mina was almost buried under a massive chunk of debris. Check. The 0-pointer that I have no chance of beating is nearly on top of her. Check. The other applicants are running away, conveniently into my path. Check. Izuku reached her position quickly, and transferred all the momentum from his spirit into his fist, smashing the debris on top of Mina into pieces. Mina looked injured. Broken ankle? No, sprained. Alright, now to pick her up, run away, and narrowly dodge the massive robot's attack just as the timer runs off, looking like a total hero while doing so. Or at least, that was the plan. Aizawa, holy shit, what are you doing? Watch out! Mina let out a scream, and desperately tried to leap away, not making much progress with her injury. Izuku realized what was happening. The robot decided not to draw this out any further, and struck early. He turned around, the arm of the Goliath halfway there to turn the both of them into a fine milkshake, fit for any cannibal or vampire. He focused. The feelings associated with armor were similar with those associated with invincibility. It relied on one's feeling of stubbornness. Knowing something is futile, but going for it anyways, to spite the world, prove oneself, it didn't matter. Izuku remembered All Might, his smile, and mere presence compelling courage in allies, and terror in enemies. No matter what will happen, he has left his mark on the world, and will be remembered forever, as the hero who created a lasting era of peace. Unstoppable, unmovable, and unrivaled. The world bent to his will, moved purely by his power. I am All Might. I move for no one, and no one moves me. I will be forever remembered. I am infinite. So thought Izuku, before being fully encased in inky black crystalline armor. Today has been an interesting day for Mina Ishido. She talked with some old school friends. She met a very interesting guy with eyes like hers, who was actually part robot. Then she realized the physical exam for Yui was a piece of cake since the robots were extremely vulnerable to her acid, and had an absolute blast scrapping them. Except for when she got her kills stolen by some French dude with a laser belt. All in all, she'd have to rate the day a good to great 8 out of 10. Thing is, no numbers could ever make sense of what the hell is going on now. The damned 0-pointer had caused some debris to fall on her, fuck her, screwing up her ankle, and trapping her. Just when it seemed all was lost, her dashing Prince Midoriya had come to save her. She was confused at first, but was happy knowing just how flustered he was gonna be whenever she brought it up, and she totally would. Before she could react to his rescue though, she saw the 0-pointer lift its massive arm, ready to pace them both. Midoriya looked at it, and holy shit, what he did was so damn stupid and heroic she didn't know which one outweighed the other. The adorable green bean cyborg puppy activated his crystal armor, crouched down, and jumped up towards the arm. Detroit smash. The impact of the robot's arm and Midoriya's fist actually halted the robot and left a decently sized crater where he struck. Midoriya fell back down and hit the ground hard, but got right back up and crouched down again, readying himself. He was stalling for time. He knows I'm hurt, yet is he really going to do this until he's saved by the bell? He's insane. He is completely insane. The robot swung again, and the augmented hero answered in turn. Smash. Another impact, another recoil, another hard fall. He's amazing. Midoriya is a real hero. He got up again, but not all of his crystalline armor was there. His fists were bare, and his face could be seen. The armor was being destroyed, and moved to his organs. He coughed up something liquid and golden, and his eyes went hazy for a moment, before resuming their usual clarity. Fuck, is that his blood? This was too much. He was doing too much. He's acting like he's All Might or something. They were all just kids with dreams of being heroes. Why was he starting the real thing so damn early? He's clearly hurting, and in pain. He could legitimately die. What the fuck kind of exam is T? Mina, he spoke, and she looked at his face clearly. He was in pain. The golden liquid continued to run. His eyes looked unchanged. Izuku? Everything is fine. Why? Please don't. The hero looked up towards the arm, about to descend on the both of them with the force of a train. Izuku crouched down, ready to face the Titan once more. Because I am H. And that's all, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for playing. The 0-pointer stopped its onslaught, and all movement completely. It worked. I saved her. Izuku took one last look at her. Mina. Immediate threats neutralized, beginning self-repair. Then, his consciousness faded. Izuku Midoriya's eyes slowly opened, greeted by an incredibly harsh light, before his digital eyes readjusted themselves to the environment. An artificial darkness, seen only by him, fell over the room, and balanced the invasive contrast. To his left, a completely unblind window, leaving his body fully exposed to the sun's wrath. He was laying down on something more sturdy than it was comfortable, and the memories flooded back. I'm in the hospital. Never thought I'd need one of these for a while. He heard her before he saw her. A shifting of clothing, cloth rubbing on plastic, likely a chair, rapid steps, and a voice full of glee, which he was incredibly happy to hear. Izuku, dude, you're alive. Another voice, unknown to him, this one significantly older, and with a resigned, impatient tone. Child, you already knew he was alive. Yet another voice, but this one he knew very, very well. Relief and strain evident in its tone. Oh Izuku, you're alright. You should be ashamed for making your old mother worry so much. Just what were you thinking? Charging in and picking a fight with the biggest robot there was? Mina and his mother were both there, one smiling, with the other holding a fierce expression of relief, and a little old lady, who looked like she couldn't even be paid to give a damn in the slightest. Hey everyone, I guess I'm still alive. Are you alright, Miyashito-san? Did I pass the exam? Did you pass the exam? Mina snorted, while Mama Midoriya and Grandma gave him incredulous jaw drops and glares respectively. HMPF, you wake up in a hospital bed after impersonating All Might to the best of your ability, and the first thing you ask is if the person not in a hospital bed is okay to answer your question. Ashido sustained some minor damage from falling debris, but I healed her up just fine. You, on the other hand, were nearly flattened by a multi-ton robot, and were unconscious for an entire day. I couldn't even heal you effectively either, since your quirk turns most of your organs abiotic. Know what that word means, sonny? Unliving. If it weren't for the girl's advice that sunlight helps you gain energy, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. So maybe before you rush into the most dangerous situation you possibly can, as if it's a morning buffet, please do realize your quirk does not make you invincible. Izuku's face was completely beet red after the stern chewing out by the doctor. Mina was giggling, nearly laughing her ass off, and Inko just sighed, knowing full well there was nothing the doctor, or anyone in the world, could say that would stop Izuku from putting himself in such a dangerous situation if it was to save someone, and she had a feeling who it was. Izuku, you never told me you made a new friend, and she's a girl. Mom. Mina's giggling had escalated to full-blown laughter, and the doctor just huffed and walked away, not before giving Izuku one last menacing glare. Izuku, your mom is adorable. At least now I know where you get it from. Ashido. Both of the girls had erupted with roaring laughter at his expense, and Izuku could not possibly recall a moment where he had been more embarrassed. This is what he gets for saving someone. Well, maybe it's not so bad. Izuku moved his cybernetic limbs around, testing for any strain or fatigue, but everything was fine. He got off the bed, and was about to ask, again, how Mina did on the exam, before a knocking came from the door. Oh, come in. A tall, but very slender man entered the room, dressed in a formal suit that looked a few sizes too big for him, his blue eyes shining discreetly under his brow. He honestly looked more like a patient than some important person, until he looked directly at Izuku, a sly, knowing smile on his face. Holy shit, that's All Might. What is he doing here? I gotta keep my damn mouth shut before I reveal his secret. His voice was more formal and refined than it was when he had last spoken to the boy, but it was him, without a doubt, and only he knew. Izuku Midoriya? My name is Toshinori Yagi, and I was sent to deliver the test results for the physical exam to you. Your actions have sparked much discussion amongst the judges. Personally, I find what you did extremely heroic, and those at Yui would be fools not to let you in. But alas, it's not up to me. Young man, just know that even if you receive some bad news, I think you have the real makings of a hero. Goodbye. All Might thinks I can be a hero. He's proud of me. Toshinori placed an envelope in Izuku's hand and walked away, closing the door behind him. The two in that bright room who were kept in the dark held expressions of confusement and concern. That was weird. You know that guy, Izuku? You haven't been getting into trouble with strangers, have you, Izuku? Izuku's face was still pale from the praise received, and finally allowed himself to breathe. It was a deep breath, one of relief for keeping his nerves under control, and not screaming out All Might, oh my god, like his base instincts desired, as well as anticipation, because he knew that he hadn't gotten that many points on the physical exam, but desperately wanted to know the results anyways. I don't know him. He saw my fights with the robots though, that's for sure. Izuku stared at the envelope. His future is in his hands. He looked at Mina, and she responded with a small smile of reassurance. Her eyes held a softness to them, a type of softness unseen by most that knew her. She was worried for him. Come on, hero, open it. The word was teasing, but genuine. He opened the letter. The only thing it contained was a small disc, roughly the size of a cookie. One side contained the text, this side down. I am here. As a projection. Oh dear, holy. Oh my god, it's All Might. Greetings, Izuku Midoriya, and thank you for your efforts to enter our prestigious school. I have moved here to personally teach those at Yui High. Regarding your exams, you received high scores on your written exam, but only received 19 villain points. Such a low score would not allow for a passing grade. A deathly silence passed over them. Mina dared a glance at Izuku's face. It was completely neutral, as if he hadn't heard the news yet. His arms were limp, his hands were open. The strangest urge overtook her, and she acted on it. Anything to make things better, to lessen the blow. This was the dude who saved her, who placed himself between a hard place and a giant killer robot just to make sure she wasn't harmed. She suspected it wouldn't have mattered who she was. He seemed like the kind of person to save anyone and everyone, just because it was the right thing to do. And Yui was about to reject him. She grabbed onto his hand and held, fingers intertwined. He tightened his grip immediately, no hesitation. However, heroes are not defined by the villains they face. A hero is someone who helps others regardless of their personal gain. They help others because it is the right thing to do. We have a special type of point in place for such heroic actions, rescue points. Behold. All Might gestured to a screen behind him, and multiple scenes played out. He saved 2 contestants from some 2 and 3 pointers, as well as his heroics with Mina. Izuku was in every frame, pushing himself until he could no longer stay awake, using every ability that he could use. He held nothing back. Young man, for your heroic actions, as well as sportsmanship shown towards your fellow competitors, the panel of judges has awarded you 75 rescue points. Adding these points up, you receive a total of 94 points. Bravo, young Midoriya, you have passed in first place, and have shown the real makings of a hero. All Might gave a sly wink at that last phrase. Izuku Midoriya exploded into a shower of praise and happy tears, congratulating Izuku on just about everything she could, and pulling him into a bear hug. Massive feelings of pride and joy erupting from her heart, directed towards her own child, her own pride and joy. Mina Ashido started screaming and jumping in excitement, drastically increasing in volume and energy, as she realized her friend didn't just get in, he got in one SD place. She grabbed Izuku's other hand, and her grip on him tightened, eager to drown in their energetic glee. Izuku felt a genuine smile coming onto his face, because it finally felt like his dreams were no longer dreams. They were now tangible, something that could be real. He was going to Yui, the most prestigious hero school there was. That wasn't all he was happy about. His cold hands felt the warmth and energy from his friend, and he just now realized how long it had been since he made a new one. All he had was Kaken and his mother, but now he had another friend, Mina Ashido, a new friend, and an old dream, now within his reach. His laughter started weakly, but quickly turned into beautiful sounds of bellowing, unrestrained happiness. Welcome to your hero academia. Izuku stared in awe at the entrance to Yui High. His hopes and dreams were right there, in that building. He walked in, and started looking around for his homeroom class 1A. He hadn't seen Kaken or Ashido yet, but he probably figured they were already in their classes. A grim thought occurred to him, and its name was Katsuki Bakugo, screaming at the entire class, in some self-righteous early attempt to establish his dominance, as he often likes to do whenever he enters a new room. He knew Kaken was rough around the edges, but if he had one other friend he would probably be happier. The only times he saw his smile was during training when he broke through the crystalline armor and delivered a beating. Ah, good times. There it is, the door. It's massive. Maybe there's a gigantic mutation in there. Alright. Just calm down, open the door, and maybe someone you know is in there. Little did he know just how true that statement was. So you're some stupid elitist prick? I hope that sticking up your ass also serves as a spine, cause I'm going to crush you. There was Kaken being himself. What Izuku didn't expect, however, was that rude engine quirk user. His body language was very expressive. Are you threatening a fellow student? On the first day? That is unacceptable. How could you possibly wish to be a hero with such an aptitude for violence? Are you sure you're in the right place? Hey Midoriya! Silently. Then everyone in the class shifted their attention to him, with Izuku shifting his attention to the class. Ashido was the one who spoke, her face lit up with a smile, and frantic waving to let him know where she was. Not that such a task was particularly difficult with her unique appearance. She was already up, and approaching him. Unfortunately, the same could also be said for Kaken and the speedster. Midoriya-kun, did you have any trouble finding the place? I was honestly so lost. DKU, how the fuck did you beat my score? I had 74 villain points. And your ASS somehow got first with some bullshit rescue points. You sure you didn't screw one of the judges with that useless Pheromone M? Does your blatant disrespect know no bounds? Midoriya was clearly having a conversation with that young woman. Midoriya-san, my name is Tenya Ida, and I have completely misjudged you. Your willingness to put yourself in the line of fire for others, including myself, is commendable. Your intelligence is superb, as well, for figuring out the true purpose of the exam. Please forgive my earlier rudeness. Ida gave a steep, admittedly impressive bow, while Bakugo only scoffed at his theatrics. Ashido looked amused, and ready to try again at a conversation, but before she could, a giant, yellow, caterpillar materialized seemingly out of nowhere on the classroom floor, just in front of the desks. A voice, full of uninterested gravel with a hint of sleep deprivation, made itself known to the class. If you're here to socialize, you should just leave now, and save us the trouble. The caterpillar unzipped itself, and drank from a juice pouch before getting up, his face obscured by ragged hair. The scruffy, almost homeless-looking man, dressed in all black with the exception of his gray scarf, spoke again. I am Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher. You students should rely more logical. Every second in this school will count towards making you heroes, but I already feel I'll be busy filling out expulsion forms. Guess I should find out what you are all capable of first though, HM? Put these on, and meet me outside. I'll write directions on the board. If any of you can't even follow these directions, don't bother showing up tomorrow. I'm happy to see none of you failed to follow simple directions. Let's get on with the tests. You all took physical assessments before, but they prohibited the use of a quirk whenever possible. Aizawa took an obvious look at Izuku, his arms a clear indicator that he would not be a good example. I find this rhetoric illogical in a hero setting, so you are all permitted to use your quirks for these tests. Before the inevitable explosion of unneeded noise from the students could surface itself, he made his decision. Katsuki Bakugo, you placed second in the physical entrance exam. Step up. How far could you throw in your last physical assessment? HMPF, 65 meters. Try it again, with your quirk. Katsuki flashed a grin. Something he had learned from a young age was that by making a strong impression early on, you reduce the amount of bullshit you deal with from other people by about 80%. This was his chance to make an impression, and show the entire class just who the fuck was in charge. Warming up his form, he threw the ball, as hard as he could, adding the biggest explosion possible onto the ball. Die. Did he just say die? The ball was rocketed forward, landing barely in one piece after several seconds of flight. A number appeared on the device Aizawa held, who showed it to the entire class. 705 meters. The class erupted in a mixture of gasps, cheers, and muttering, although the muttering could only be attributed to one person. What caught Aizawa's eye, however, was a certain phrase said by a certain pink-skinned girl. This is gonna be fun. Fun, huh? THS members of Class 1A shut their mouths quickly, creating an exponentially decreasing volume of noise. A bitter chill bit at the students' spines as they spotted a disturbing smile on their teacher's face. Something very bad happened. Being a hero is not fun. People's lives are at stake, especially your own. If you're going to treat it like a game, you have no future in heroics. However, I recognize the importance of games when it comes to children, so let's play one game. Right now, whoever places last in these physical assessments will be judged unworthy, as having zero potential, and will be expelled. The class was silent as the grave, before it exploded into noise again. This is insane, exclaimed the stocky, thick-lipped teenager. "This seems a little too much for the first day of instruction," remarked a tall girl, one of the recommended students if he recalled correctly. "I just had to open my big, fat mouth, whining about a girl with too many physical alterations to mention. This doesn't seem fair," stupidly complained a girl with short brown hair. Aizawa decided to shut this notion down, lest it be expected out of hero life ever again. Natural disasters, human stupidity, and suicidal villains who intend to take as many with them as they can before they are subdued. None of these events can be described as fair to the people who had wanted nothing to do with it, but that's how it is. As heroes, your duty is to overcome unfair situations and ensure the best possible outcome to society as a whole. Fairness will never be guaranteed, but you will prevail regardless. That is the meaning of plus ultra. So go, show me you are worthy to be taught. The 50-meter dash was first. There were many things Izuku couldn't help but notice during Aizawa's instructions and the general terror he inflicted on the class. One of which was just how many glances were being passed his way. He couldn't help but feel self-conscious about his arms. The circuit-infused appendages had gotten him some odd looks before, but nothing as bad as this. Were they expecting him to do some kind of trick? Maybe they were worried about the arm blades, which could never really be removed, as his internal systems simply replaced them over the course of an hour. Why were they only staring at him? There was a kid with 6 arms crying out loud, as well as someone with pink skin, horns, and he glanced at Mina, who was lost in her own thoughts. A sudden restlessness gnawed at his mind. She wasn't at risk of failing, was she? Her quirk wasn't exactly suited for physical assessments, but she was pretty quick to catch him before he'd fallen on the pavement. Decently strong too. Was she also flexible? That would likely be an important factor to consider. Midoriya. Wait, how long had he been staring again? This is not the first time I have expelled someone who placed first in the physical entrance exam, and I highly doubt it'll be the last. Get moving. Sorry, Aizawa-sensei. Some snickers and mumbling came from the crowd, and unfortunately Izuku had better ears than most. He got a thing for that pink girl? How the hell did Hedge it in first? He's like a lost kitten. Isn't my hair? Sure dude. Taking in a deep breath, Izuku set up at the starting line. He really had no reason to worry. Physical assessment is something he has always been great at due to his quirk. He is completely in his element, and should act like it. A hero should be seen as confident, dependable, assertive, maybe even a little social. Be assertive. Like Kaken. Like Mina. My future depends on today. The slightly adorable robot sounded off, and both boys at the starting line took off in a blur of speed. Izuku bursted ahead, but Ida overtook him almost immediately and finished with an impressive time of 3.04 seconds, whereas the enhanced legs of the August could carry him in the still impressive time of 3.42 seconds. Damn, I knew he was fast, but that time was insane. Then a tall girl with raven hair, Momo Yayorozu, undid her gym uniform and pulled a fully functioning motorcycle out of her torso, riding it to the finish line. It was deemed acceptable by Aizawa. The two boys' minds were running with questions. The grip strength test was right up Izuku's alley. But as it turned out, the 6-armed student Mizo Shoji was incredibly strong, easily dwarfing every other student aside from Izuku and the stocky, thick-lipped Rikido Sato, who had impressive scores of their own. Those arms are way stronger than they should be. Maybe his quirk is more than just extra arms. The sidestep test was also competently completed by the cyborg, although a small student with strange hair, Minoru Mineta, dominated the field with an admittedly creative use of his own quirk, before vomiting on the ground immediately after. That's what victory looks like, I guess. The standing long jump's main contenders were Izuku, Tsuyu, and that weird French dude Ioma, though they were ultimately surpassed by Bakugo, who used his explosions to essentially fly as far as possible before landing, screaming explosive expletives the whole way. TSK, always a flair for the dramatic Kaken. By far the most impressive thing, however, was a certain plain-looking girl's softball throw at an unbeatable record of infinity. The entire class stared in awe at Ochako Uraraka. Her quirk must be physics-based. Nobody can be that strong. Well, maybe one. Maybe. The sit-up test was not remarkable, but Izuku found himself lagging behind in the seated toe touch test. Who knew having your tendons and soft tissues replaced with something a little more durable would sacrifice flexibility? Mina, on the other hand, found her place to shine, showing an impressive performance of flexibility. She easily ranked first, with Tsuyu and a friendly-looking student with a tail, Mashireo Ojiro, in hot pursuit. Izuku was mortified at how easily she bent herself to an impossible angle. Geez, Ishido-san, you some kinda contortionist or something? Mina glanced up at the familiar voice, a smile already taken residence on her bright face. Nah, I mean yeah, sorta. I've been practicing my flexibility for a while now, but a side benefit of my acid is that my skin can be moist and smooth whenever I want it to be, which helps me get a few extra inches in. Izuku nearly responded, but heard snickers and quiet giggling from two boys already finished, Mineta and someone whose hair could only be described as lightning-y, Denki Kaminari. One of them whispered something incredibly quietly. But of course, Izuku was just in range for his enhanced eardrums to pick up the speech perfectly. Oh, I bet it does. More quiet laughter from the two rowdy boys, and the topic of what they were addressing hit Izuku like a Detroit smash. He blushed immediately at the realization, and tried to form a coherent response. But it was too late. Mina saw his blushed face, and went over what she said. A few extra inches in, they both thought at once. Mina's face erupted in a storm of lilac at the perverse image she likely placed in his head, but the storm mostly faded when she realized just how damn funny it was that Izuku of all people would reach that conclusion. Huh, Izuku, didn't realize you were that type of guy. You think like that with every girl, or should I be worried? Half-questioned Mina with a perfectly executed wiggle of her eyebrows, a smirk plastered over her face. Unfortunately, she never got a concise answer, as Izuku malfunctioned, and covered his face with his steely hands. I swear I'm not. Mina responded with her usual bubbly laughter whenever she successfully turned the social heat up on the Midoriya oven, happy to turn an awkward situation into a funny one. Izuku dared to look at her, and just smiled, his head doing its best to mimic a tomato. The frog-like girl, Tsuyu, chose this as an opportune time to get to know her classmates a little more. You two seem close. Are you guys related, Karo? Izuku looked up, the embarrassment dissipating from his brain, and eager to talk about Mina in a non-terrifying way. No, we're not related. What makes you think that? The eyes, of course. Mina and Izuku paused before looking at each other. Their eyes were similar. Mina's eye color was closer to yellow, while Izuku's was more golden, but aside from that, there was no difference in their eyes. It was an entirely fair assumption to think they were related, even despite the multiple other physical abnormalities they both possessed. Izuku stared into Mina's eyes, losing himself yet again in their supernova splendor. Is Midoriya alright? Oh, he does that all the time. No worries. I'm just glad someone can appreciate my eyes. It seems a little disturbing. Izuku? Disturbing? Nah, he's such an innocent dork softy. He just doesn't know how to talk to pretty girls. Izuku remained entranced, occasionally muttering some phrases about space or something. See? He can't resist them. You do know what he did for me in the entrance exam, right? Izuku is the coolest cyborg you'll ever meet. Alright, so basically, their homeroom teacher, Shota Aizawa, chose this as an opportune moment to move things along. You're going to have to regale the class on Midoriya's heroics later, because it is time for the long-distance run. Everyone lines up and gets ready. Oh, sure thing, Aizawa-sensei. Truth be told, Mina did not like the homeroom teacher. He gave off this aura of indifference and uncertainty, like he would, say, expel someone from the most prestigious hero establishment in Japan at the drop of a hat, and not even recognize the kid he expelled the next day if he saw him at the grocery store. It was unfriendly, unnecessary, and just not very cool. She always imagined their teachers to be the most inspirational, wonderful, entertaining figures they'd meet. Yet Aizawa was worse than their previous teachers by a long shot. Go! Announced an adorable little robot, and so the students competed for their futures with all their might, as this was the last test before someone received some very bad news. Ida and Izuku were in the lead, no surprise there, while Mina herself was in the top 5. Izuku let himself dwell on the situation. Ida is incredibly fast, but he can't run as long as I can. I doubt anyone can run as long as I can. It'll take hours before I even begin to feel fatigue from just sprinting. I should place first. Wait, is he speeding up? Ida smiled. Midoriya probably thought he was going at his top speed during the 50-meter dash, but 50 meters is only enough distance for him to reach third gear. Now he had an even greater advantage in terms of speed, although he would require himself to focus on his breathing technique. If Midoriya saving Ishido the way he did after he destroyed the robots that incapacitated him was to be taken into account, it was not likely he would slow down from his current speed at all. His energy levels seemed limitless. Ida proved right in his train of thought, and finished the race first, while Izuku placed second. He turned towards the boy to offer words of praise, but was beaten to the punch by the very same boy. Wow, Ida, I didn't know you were so fast. I thought I'd be able to outrun you, but I'll obviously need more distance than this at the speed you're going. Ida looked at the boy, who had no visible strain or fatigue from the intense sprinting. He smiled again. Something about Izuku was so honorable and earnest, and just radiated sportsmanship. It reminded him that, despite technically competing against each other, they both seek to become heroes, striving to become paragons of justice, order, and a better world. I found your stamina just as impressive, Midoriya-san. You did not slow down once. I have truly never seen someone so consistent in their form, physically and mentally. I am assured you will become a great hero. You will become a great hero. Soon after everyone finished the last test, Aizawa called out the students from a clipboard, starting with first place, Izuku Midoriya. The class grumbled and murmured, but Mina, and Ida simply gave smiles and nods of approval respectively, happy for the success of their fellow student. Izuku did his best to stay calm, collected, and not make eye contact with anyone other than Mina and his newfound friend, Ida. Midoriya did not place first in any of the tests, however his physical versatility, aside from his below-average flexibility, allowed him to outrank most of you in every single test. He was consistently above average. You all understand? The best pro heroes are not one-trick ponies, and must be adaptable to every possible circumstance. On that note, Midoriya, I will personally ensure your flexibility does not become an issue in the field. Be prepared. The same disheartening chill ran down his spine when Aizawa spoke directly towards him. Of course, Aizawa-sensei. Oh right, I nearly forgot. Nobody is being expelled. It was a rational deception, meant to bring out your best efforts. Aizawa covered his ears preemptively, before the class exploded into a mixture of noise, chaos, and varying states of emotional distress. A short, purple-headed student seemed ready to faint upon hearing the words. He was just screwing around the whole time. A certainly unorthodox method of teaching. He lied to us just so we were sure to try our very best. That's actually kind of manly. Of course it was a ruse. He would not expel one of us on the very first day. It was too reminiscent of a fear tactic. I wouldn't say that, Yamomo. I heard he expelled his entire class last year. That was kinda scary, wasn't it, Izuku? The good kind of scary though, where the monster is creeping up on the good guy, but she can't see it. It really gets the blood pumping, or in your case coolant. It's not coolant, Ashido-kun. I have blood too, nearly whined Izuku. What's with that tone? I don't have the tone. Right, sure. Izuku just sighed, feeling slightly irked at the robot jokes Mina just loved to make. He knew it was all in good sport, but he would get her back. Soon, someday, maybe. Well, your tests are done, and I hope you've all learned a valuable lesson, because I have no intention of repeating myself. Change back into your uniforms, and prepare for your classes. This is a school, after all. And so Izuku, Ida, and Mina walked back towards the school, carrying with them the important knowledge they had learned. Thanks for watching my video, and make sure to check out the author of this fanfic. Link is in the description. See you next time. Till then, sayonara.